Bitcoin is the most secure, highest integrity thing that does exist that's man-made on this earth, right? It's the likelihood that Bitcoin gets corrupted is far less than the likelihood that Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, or your government or your building get corrupted. And the likelihood that it gets corrupted is less than every other crypto asset. And the way you know that is because all of the centralized software programs are controlled by development teams, right? And of all the crypto assets, the most decentralized is Bitcoin, which means the development is decentralized and the deployment is decentralized. So this, how do you know it's got integrity? Well, you've got 13 years of history and 20,000 other crypto things have been launched and they've all failed against it, right? They were all less secure than it, right? So why don't I worry about it? Well, if you look at the history, you've got the example of everyone that ever tried to change it. Yeah, if you read the block size wars, you'll read the story of what happened when every large miner and every large exchange and large holders wanted to corrupt it. They failed. And they failed because the developers don't control the protocol. You know, if 10 developers get together and write some new code, that doesn't mean that the users are going to run it. So the actual network is controlled by the nodes, and they're distributed to tens of thousands of different machines. And so you would have to convince everybody in the Bitcoin community to implement defective code against their own interest in order to do something stupid. And I don't see how you're going to do that. The other, it does illustrate an important point, which is one of the strengths of Bitcoin is the ambition to do the least amount possible, right? Bitcoin exists to keep track of a ledger of 21 million coins. That's what it exists to do. We're not trying to build functionality into it.
Bitcoin and Ethereum prices rose once again as the global cryptocurrency market was trading in green. But as the leading cryptocurrency challenges the 45K resistance for the third time, many people are questioning whether it will succeed or not. Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Bitcoin evangelist MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor updates about Bitcoin's market performance, rising inflation versus volatility, and crypto regulation. He also highlights the importance of Bitcoin on a company's balance sheet and why the upcoming Bitcoin bull run is unstoppable. Saylor also talks about the importance of Bitcoin adoption and how it will change the world in the coming few years. If you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the post notifications. Let's dive right into the video.
The first country to do it will be a screaming winner, right? It's a no-brainer, right? Especially if you had your own currency. So if you were a small country and you were able to print your currency, buy Bitcoin with the currency, right? The right play here would be, I in essence buy $10 billion worth of Bitcoin and I announce it, right? And it goes up by a factor of 10 and I make $100 billion, right? If you were a country with exports, right? If you were an oil exporter, if you start to price your oil in Bitcoin and you buy the Bitcoin and then you funnel your cash receipts, right? Your cash earnings into Bitcoin, then you would be in essence plugging your economy into the Bitcoin economy, taking a Bitcoin standard. And what you would do is you would back your currency with Bitcoin, which is a deflationary asset, and your currency would be just like my stock. Like my stock was $120 a share when I started this, and it's dramatically appreciated because of us adopting a Bitcoin standard. In fact, we actually issued $1 billion worth of equity converted into Bitcoin, right? So a country stock is its currency. So a country could easily issue $1 billion of its currency and buy Bitcoin. First of all, I think every month for the past 24 months, the environment's become more favorable. Like
Right.
just last week, the president of the United States issued an executive order ordering every agency to figure out how to regulate and how to facilitate cryptocurrencies. And so now you could go back to your bank and you could say, the president of the United States says this is a force for good, and we need to figure out how to embrace this. Right here it is in black and white. Read the quote from Joe Biden. So 2 years ago, you didn't have that, right? And a year ago, you didn't have that. By the end of this year, there'll be like 36 or more publicly traded companies that own Bitcoin on their corporate balance sheets. And if you roll the clock back 2 years, there was pretty much no one, right? So it is happening. It will progressively continue for the decade, from 2022 to 2030. I think these are going to be all big growth years. I think that if you look at the really monstrous companies with large treasuries, the number one structural impediment is the accounting treatment for GAAP purposes, because the accounting treatment injects a huge amount of volatility and opacity into both their P&Ls and their balance sheets. And if you have a healthy company that's making a lot of money, it looks like it's more trouble than it's worth. On the other hand, I think that the people that are really aggressively adopting and will continue to adopt will be individuals in the rest of the world, private companies. They don't have the same GAAP public optics concerns. Macroeconomic investors, they're realizing that gold is defective and they want something like gold, but they know that gold doesn't work. And so all they have to do is study it for 100 hours. I think that I think if you're looking for the catalyst, right, a spot Bitcoin ETF is catalyst, right? If I'm a public investor and I've got a spot ETF, then I can put $1 billion into this in a heartbeat, right? I think the FASB will be a catalyst for big corporate public company adoption. I think FDIC guidance will be a catalyst for banks. Generally, with all of these good ideas, Apple's a good idea, iOS, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Bitcoin. What are they all? They're all dominant digital networks spreading to billions of people. Unstoppable. The entire world needs them. Nobody can stop them. Generally, only 2%, 2% of the people get it. 90% of the people reject it. They will continue. 95% will reject it. You can hold it right in front of their face. You can say, here it is. And their response will be, oh, well, we need to sell that and diversify. Even today, right? How many people, when Bitcoin hits 60,000, they're like, well, you got to sell it. Why do I got to sell it? You got to diversify. It's too risky. Knowing everything it's still too risky. It's the same investors that would sell Apple stock in 2012 or Amazon stock in 2015 or Google stock in 2014. They would say, well, it's overvalued and it's too risky. Well, what are you going to buy with it? I'm going to buy conventional things.
Right.
Well, the conventional things are all going to zero, right? Why are you thinking that way? It's because they don't want to be criticized by the mainstream media or by mainstream conventional thinkers. And so they will pursue, safe strategies.
The traditional way.
So I don't think it's easy for a government. I think that the next aggressive adopters will probably be investors. Maybe sovereign wealth funds will do it first. It's a lot easier decision for a sovereign wealth fund, because if you would own $1 billion of Apple stock or own $1 billion of Google or Facebook, then owning $1 billion of Bitcoin doesn't look that different to you. So I think that they'll move next. But ultimately, this is a network where the early adopters benefit at every single stage. The first city, right? You want to be a first city, issue $1 billion of bonds that pay 2% or 3% interest, buy $1 billion of Bitcoin that yields 20% or 15%, and it's like your citizens are getting paid $150 million a year forever. If your interest was to do the best thing long-term for your country, it would be to price it in Bitcoin, because not only would you get a neutral currency, but you would also get the treasury benefit. Your entire balance sheet would appreciate over time. So that would be your best interest. But there are always political dynamics, politics involved. It's like Will there be a war? Will someone go to war with me if I try to do that? And if so, maybe I'm concerned about that.
Mm.
Or is there some other political reason? Maybe I'd like to price it in Bitcoin, but the Chinese won't sell to me unless I price it in CNY. So there'll be trade issues and political issues and military issues and dynamics. And I
Okay.
think that'll evolve over time. It's utterly rational if you can do it, right? So it's really a political issue of, do you have the political will to do it, and what's the risk? And
Got it. Got it.
that will evolve.
Now, let's take a look at the on-chain analysis of Bitcoin's price movement in the recent days. Bitcoin has reached the major 45K resistance zone once again, following a bullish rally in the past few days. The price first broke above the 50-day moving average, and after a successful retest, it has now broken the 100-day moving average to the upside. Currently, the 45K resistance level is the major obstacle, and if the price is able to break above it, the next major resistance would be the 200-day moving average. On the other hand, if BTC gets rejected to the downside, the 50-day and 100-day moving averages could act as a support and stop a potential correction. Yesterday, BTC went through significant price volatility, resulting in a large long-short liquidation. These are necessary for the market to temper down the level of leverage being employed in futures trading. Open interest is already around multi-month lows, raising the chances of Bitcoin restarting its positive trend. However, the market's estimated leverage ratio remains high, indicating that it needs to be deleveraged in order to proceed in a healthy direction. So, what do you think? Will Bitcoin break the 45K resistance or not? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.